The elevator door slid open on the 47th floor, and Victoria Chen stepped into the marble lobby of her penthouse at 2:17 a.m. Her Louboutin clicked against the floor as exhaustion weighed on her shoulders. Another grueling week of board, meetings in Singapore had left her drained. She'd cut the trip short, something she never did, because an inexplicable feeling had been gnawing at her for days, a mother's instinct perhaps, or maybe just the desperate ache to hold her 3 children after too many days apart. Victoria had built an empire from nothing, the daughter of Chinese immigrants, who'd worked 3 jobs each to keep food on the table. She'd clawed her way from a Brooklyn studio apartment to the Forbes billionaire list. Chen Technologies now employed over 50,000 people worldwide. But none of that mattered when she thought about Lily, Emma, and James, her 7-year-old triplets who couldn't hear the word mommy, but could read it on her lips with perfect clarity. As she pushed open the door to her penthouse, expecting silence and darkness, she froze. The living room glowed with soft lamplight, and there, on the floor, surrounded by a fortress of couch cushions, was Miguel Reyes, the building's night janitor, with all 3 of her children asleep against him. Lily had her head on his shoulder. Emma was curled into his side, and James had sprawled across his lap. Miguel's weathered hands moved slowly through the air, signing a story to no one now, perhaps finishing what he'd started before they'd drifted off. Victoria's breath caught. Her children, her babies, in the arms of a stranger. Miguel's eyes shot up, meeting hers. Terror flashed across his face as he registered who stood before him. He carefully, desperately tried to extract himself without waking the children, his lips forming frantic, silent apologies. "Don't move," Victoria said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Don't you dare move!" Miguel froze, his brown eyes wide with fear. He was in his 60s, she realized, with gray streaking, his dark hair and deep lines etched around his eyes, the kind earned from years of hard labor and harder circumstances. "Mrs. Chen, I can explain," he started, his voice thick with an accent that spoke of a life lived between 2 worlds. "Explain?" Victoria's hands trembled as she set down her briefcase. "Explain why the janitor is in my home with my children at 2 in the morning. She watched him swallow hard, saw the resignation in his eyes. He thought he was about to lose everything. Good. He should be terrified. She pulled out her phone. "Please," Miguel whispered, glancing down at the sleeping triplets. His hands moved instinctively to shield them, even in his fear. "Please, Mrs. Chen, let me put them to bed first." They were so scared. Scared? Victoria's anger faltered for just a moment. "What do you mean, scared?" Miguel took a breath, choosing his words carefully. "Miss Patricia, the nanny, she had emergency. Her daughter went to hospital. She called me because she had no one else. Because she knew." He paused, his eyes dropping. "Because she knew I could talk to them." Victoria's world tilted slightly. You know sign language?" "Si." "Yes." Miguel's hands moved as he spoke, muscle memory making the signs flow naturally. "My daughter Rosa, she was deaf. I learned for her." Was. The past tense hung in the air like a ghost. Victoria watched as Miguel carefully, tenderly lifted James and carried him toward the bedrooms. She followed, her mind reeling. The penthouse had been her fortress, her carefully controlled sanctuary. Patricia had been with them for 2 years, thoroughly vetted, impeccably credentialed. But Patricia had never learned to sign, despite Victoria's gentle requests. "They read lips so well," Patricia always said, "and they have their tablets." But watching Miguel lay James in his bed, seeing how her son instinctively reached for the janitor's hand even in sleep, seeing how Miguel tucked the blanket just so and placed James's favorite stuffed dinosaur within reach, this was different. This was someone who understood. They moved Emma next, then Lily. Each child settled with the ease of absolute trust. Victoria's heart twisted as she realized she'd never seen them this peaceful with Patricia. When all 3 were safely in their beds, Miguel turned to face Victoria in the hallway. He stood straight, dignified despite his janitor's uniform, despite the terror still flickering in his eyes. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Chen, I should have called you. But the children, they were crying, and Miss Patricia was crying. And He spread his hands helplessly. "I just wanted to help. How long have you been here?" "Since 8 o'clock. Miss Patricia left at 8:30 after I came. 6 hours. This man had spent 6 hours caring for her children, undoubtedly missing his own work, asking nothing in return. "Why didn't Patricia call me?" Victoria asked, though she knew the answer. Patricia knew Victoria was in crucial negotiations, knew she'd specifically asked not to be disturbed except for emergencies. But this was an emergency, wasn't it? She tried to find someone else first, Miguel said quietly. But it was late. And the children, they don't know many people. They were scared of strangers. He paused. They know me. I see them sometimes in the lobby when I clean. I always say hello. In sign, he added, his hands moving through the simple gesture. Victoria felt something crack inside her chest. You've been signing with my children in the lobby? Only hello, and goodbye, and have a good day. Miguel's weathered face softened. They always smile so big when someone signs to them. Like the world finally speaks their language. The words hit Victoria like a physical blow. How many times had she rushed through that lobby, phone pressed to her ear, too busy building her empire to notice the janitor, greeting her children in the only language that was truly theirs? Tell me about tonight, she said, her voice gentler now. What happened? Miguel relaxed slightly, leaning against the hallway wall. Miss Patricia called me very upset. Her daughter had collapsed at work. She needed to go to the hospital, but she had no one for the children. She remembered seeing me sign with them. So she asked. He shrugged, a gesture that contained multitudes. I said yes. How could I say no? And when you got here? A small smile crossed his face. They were worried about Miss Patricia. Lily was crying. So I told them, he signed as he spoke, his hands moving with practiced fluidity, that Miss Patricia's daughter would be okay, that doctors are very good, that we would take care of everything here. Then what? Then James asked if I wanted to see his Lego spaceship, and Emma wanted to show me the painting she made at school. And Lily, his voice caught slightly, Lily asked if I would read them a story before bed. Victoria's eyes burned. And did you? I told them 3 stories, in sign. The 3 Little Pigs, Where the Wild Things Are, and one I made up about a brave girl who builds a rocket ship to visit the moon. He smiled at the memory. They made me do all the sound effects even though they cannot hear them. They like to feel the vibrations when I stomp for the giant's footsteps. Victoria had to turn away, pressing her hand against her mouth. She had read to them 1,000 times, but never quite like that. Never with someone who understood bone deep what it meant to live in their world. Your daughter, she managed. Rosa, how old was she? Miguel's face shifted, grief washing over the smile. She would be 32 now. She died when she was 16, leukemia. I'm so sorry. Thank you. He was quiet for a moment. She was beautiful, so smart. She wanted to be a teacher for deaf children. His hands moved through the signs, muscle memory painting pictures of a future that never came. I learned to sign when she was 3 years old. Every day I practiced. I read books, watched videos. I wanted to give her the world in her own language. You did, Victoria said softly. You gave her what every child deserves. They stood in silence, 2 parents on opposite sides of an invisible chasm. One who had everything, one who had lost what mattered most. Mr. Reyes, Victoria said finally. Miguel, I need to ask you something. He straightened, that fear flickering back. Yes, Mrs. Chen. How would you feel about a different job? His brow furrowed. I don't understand. My children need someone who speaks their language, not just with their hands, but with their heart. Victoria felt tears sliding down her cheeks now, and she didn't bother to wipe them away. They need someone who sees them, really sees them, the way you saw them tonight. The way you've been seeing them in the lobby all this time. Miguel's eyes widened. Mrs. Chen, I'm not qualified. I'm not a nanny or a teacher or... You're a father, Victoria interrupted. A father who learned an entire language for his daughter, who spent 6 hours tonight caring for 3 frightened children who weren't his own, who made them feel safe and seen and understood. She stepped closer. That's more qualified than any resume could ever show. But I have no papers, no certificates. I'll handle the paperwork. Background checks, certifications. Whatever we need. Victoria's voice grew stronger, more certain. I'm offering you a position as my children's full-time caregiver. You'd work directly with their educators, their therapists. You'd be their bridge to a world that doesn't always know how to reach them. Miguel's hands shook as they rose to his face. I clean floors, Mrs. Chen. I empty trash cans. You're a man who sees my children as whole people, not problems to be managed or disabilities to be overcome. Victoria's voice broke. Do you know how rare that is? Do you know how precious? He was crying now, too, silent tears tracking down his weathered cheeks. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Victoria urged. Say you'll help me give my children what your daughter had, a parent who speaks their language. Miguel looked past her, toward the bedrooms where 3 children slept peacefully. When he turned back, there was wonder in his eyes and grief, and hope all tangled together. Yes, he signed, and then spoke aloud. Yes, Mrs. Chen, it would be my honor. Victoria extended her hand, and Miguel took it. In that moment, something shifted in the universe. 2 souls recognizing each other. Across the divide of circumstance, and class and loss, the billionaire and the janitor, united by love for children who moved through the world in beautiful silence. There's one more thing, Victoria said, an idea forming. Your daughter wanted to be a teacher for deaf children. What if we started a foundation in her name? The Rosa Reyes Foundation, funding education and resources for deaf children and their families. Miguel's grip on her hand tightened. You would do that? We would do that, Victoria corrected. Together. Because you've taught me something tonight, Miguel. I've been so busy building an empire that I forgot to build a world where my children truly belong. She smiled through her tears. Help me fix that. Help me build something that matters. As dawn began to break over the New York skyline, painting the penthouse in shades of gold and rose, Victoria and Miguel sat at her kitchen table, signing stories to each other, his of Rosa, hers of the Triplets. 2 parents who'd traveled very different roads, now walking the same path. When Lily wandered out at 7 a.m., rubbing sleep from her eyes, she stopped short at the sight of her mother and Miguel together. Her hands flew up in excited signs. Mommy, you're home! And Mr. Miguel is still here. Yes, baby, Victoria signed back, her movements still a bit clumsy compared to Miguel's fluid grace. Mr. Miguel is going to stay. Is that okay? Lily's face split into a grin that could power the whole city. She launched herself at Miguel, then at Victoria, wrapping her small arms around both of them. And Victoria Chen, billionaire CEO, master of the universe, finally understood what wealth really meant.